We are live. Go ahead.
Okay, welcome everybody. The hour of 5:30 having arrived. I'm going to call to order. It's me, Finance and Personnel Committee. It doesn't get old. Okay, so we're going to start with a roll call, please.
Alder Taft,
I am here.
Alder Wessex excused, Alder P,
Here.
Alder Horton,
Here.
Alder Tate the second.
Present.
That completes roll call.
Fantastic. Okay, that brings us to our first item of business, which is the approval of minutes for the January 9th meeting.
Second.
Moved by President Tate, seconded by Alder Pete. Any discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next brings us to our first item. Director Fisher, take it away, please.
Item number 0041-23, communication sponsored by Alder Taft on behalf of the Wastewater Commission for consideration and approval of resolution authorizing purchase of land and easements related to Chicory Road Sewer Improvement Project. Staff recommendation that the Wastewater Commission be allowed consideration and approval of the resolution. Recommendation of the Wastewater Commission that the consideration and approval of resolution authorizing purchase of land and easements related to Chicory Road Sewer Improvement Project be approved and referred to Finance and Personnel Committee. Fiscal note, the negotiated agreed cost with the property owner KJJ Real Estate LLC is $103,700 based on an independent appraisal. Director Tillis from Wastewater is here to speak on the item.
Welcome, Mr. Tillis. Please proceed at your leisure.
Good evening, please. So this resolution is related to underground storage tank on our south side of our city that will take care of some of the flooding in that area. And as she mentioned, the pre-agreed upon cost based on the outside of appraisal is $103,700.
Any questions for Mr. Tillis? Please proceed, sir.
Well, since you mentioned taking care of some flooding, anybody might be interested in that, it's probably on the south side of Racine. Might want to know more about what that looks like, what this project consists of, and how that might actually impact the experience they've had with the record-setting rainfalls that we've gotten more frequently over the last several years.
Yeah, absolutely. So this storage tank will be located roughly between, on Chicory Road, roughly between Knoll and Memorial. And it will alleviate flows from properties that are just west of there. So the things that Brown and Caldwell put in place before have been very successful in reducing flooding. So this storage tank would store some of the treated water before it gets to the plant. And then over the days coming after, we pump it towards the treatment plant. And so this, there's a mitigation study done, flows taken and analysis done, and this is the best place to put the storage tank that would alleviate some of those flows. So like in this last rainfall that was quite historic, this would do an adequate job in retaining those flows. We don't typically build to the 200-year flood, but this will definitely cover the 50-year flood, which is about the 2% high.
Thank you.
Alder Pete, please
Yes,
proceed.
Ted, pretty much, Tate, I'm sorry, pretty much asked the question, but could you give us a little bit more specific number in terms of percentage or the amount of properties that will be affected by it?
Absolutely. So the amount of property affected by it, I think the purchase is for a little bit over a half acre. And the temporary easement allows us to put infrastructure in that area. And it's going to be roughly in the area of between Premier Products and CJW.
Was your question over about the particular residential properties that
Yes.
Oh, the residential.
Yes, well, yeah. I mean, could you say 20% or between 0 and 100, I guess?
So this will be over 50 properties in Racine and over 25 in Mount Pleasant will be affected.
Then the other question to what you just said, is Mount Pleasant involved in sharing the costs, or how do they do it?
Absolutely. So the utility and the commission conducted a cost allocation study. And what that basically does is decide who's this going to benefit and where should we allocate those costs. And the cost for this particular project is going to be 73.6% for Mount Pleasant and 26.4% for the city of Racine.
Go ahead.
Can you speak to a little bit how this particular intervention intersects or interacts with the waste, the stormwater system? Because I know those are kind of two systems that are operating to catch flows, and residents aren't really sure, or, can't necessarily distinguish which one is doing what and where some of the challenges are coming when they get backflows or flooding in their areas. So can you kind of share how this interacts with that system, if at all?
Absolutely. So the sanitary system is completely separate from the storm system. So this would only collect that wastewater that goes down our drains, ones that we use for our laundry and our dishes and our showers and things like that. It will not pertain to things that are in stormwater. Those are directly conveyed to the river.
Okay, good discussion. Any further items? That would be in order at this time.
Second.
Moved by Alder Tate, seconded by Alder Peak. Any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Chillis. Next item, please.
Item number 0061-23, communication sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Public Health Director requesting permission to accept $77,250 from the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection for the Clean Street Unwanted Prescription Drug Grant Control Number 00486. Staff recommendation that the Public Health Director be authorized to enter into the agreement to accept funding from the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture. Fiscal note $1,812.50 soft match required. Deputy Director Bobby Fergus is here to speak on it.
Please proceed, Deputy Director.
Thank you. Good evening. So this particular grant is one that we've had for 15 plus years. We work with the Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection. This grant will allow us to facilitate the emptying the boxes that are at, we have 12 collection boxes throughout Racine County that collect medications at different various police departments. This will allow us to empty the boxes, process the medication, prepare the medication for disposal, transport the medication to the Department of Justice disposal events, and then preparation and collection of EpiPens and getting rid of injectables. So that soft match that we have will be achieved through collecting the waste through those different police departments. We're also looking at increasing advertising this year, as well as putting 1 or 2 more boxes within the city of Racine. So we have events in April and October. Our numbers are down a little bit because of COVID. So last year we collected 1,832 pounds of medication. So, but that is a decrease from previous years prior to the pandemic. So we're going to try to increase advertisement and get awareness out so that we can collect more medication.
Okay. Alder.
So one clarifying question, and I'm usually going to advertise a little bit in the committee. Does this also include, so I know EpiPens, does it also include other sharps and needles of that nature? Or is it kind of strictly,
This one is strictly for EpiPens
Okay.
or any auto injector. So then we just have a separate way of disposing of those. They can't go into collection boxes at the police station.
and the follow-up was the opportunity to speak to it. Can you speak to the public health impact of properly disposing of medications and unwanted medications or surplus medications in this mechanism as opposed to some other mechanism like flushing down the toilet?
Sure. So our public health concern is when you flush medications down the toilet or sinks, they get into our wastewater system or to our water system. So trying to dispose of them by either collection boxes. We also have these disposable pouches that the health department offers out where you put a little bit of water into them and then you can put the medications in there and they dissolve. and it hardens, kind of like K litter, and then you can toss it in the garbage. But just trying to keep the medications, the auto injectable pens out of our community. And then also when people are finished with medications, not kind of holding on to them and reusing them when your prescription is done and it ends, if you have leftovers, to dispose of them correctly, instead of saving them and reutilizing them. So there's also concerns about antibiotic resistance when people hold on to medication. And then we also have the pain medications that people can get a hold of as well.
Thank you.
Follow-up question to that. What is the best way for people to get rid of, needles, someone who's diabetic or has some other kinds of injection? What's the best way to get rid of those?
So people that are diabetic, they often partner with their local pharmacy because their local pharmacy they can either purchase a sharps container to put them in, and then they can bring it back to that pharmacy and the pharmacy will take that from them. Or sometimes they'll, like Aurora will take them if you come to get a box from them, they'll take them free of charge. So for diabetic needles.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, a motion would be in order at this time.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Alder Tate, seconded by Alder Horton. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, item please.
0062-23 communication sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Public Health Director requesting permission to accept $391,880 from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for local public health departments consolidated contract programs. Control number 00473 for bioterror, 00474 for bioterror preparedness, 00472 infant mortality. Staff recommendation that the Public Health Director be authorized to enter into an agreement and accept funding from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for local health departments. Fiscal note, there's no match required. Dollar amounts in the fiscal note for bioterror focus, grant number 00473, $63,580. 00474 is $32,283, and 00472 infant mortality of $296,017. Deputy Director is here to speak on the item.
Please proceed.
Okay. So in addition to these consolidated contracts, we have the bioterrorism, which is, so that funding allows us to dedicate a person's part-time salary to really focusing on preparedness. Working with other jurisdictions across the state, also, participating in more trainings. I think after the pandemic, that was, a focus that we had utilized before the pandemic. It worked very well during the pandemic, and we're going to continue, and the state's kind of pulling multiple jurisdictions together to work on these plans for the state of Wisconsin. So bioterrorism and then the preparedness cities readiness initiative kind of go hand in hand together, working on those trainings and planning events. Great. Any questions on those?
Any from the committee? I see a question from Alder Jones, so I'll take your question.
Thank you, Austin. I just want to ask a question about the infant mortality for African American children. I know it was very high at one time. Has that decreased any, or is it still on the same?
So, and we'll get to that one. So with infant mortality, so since 2005, African Americans in the city of Racine have had an infant mortality rate 3 times the rate of white infants for 57% of the time periods, and the rate has doubled of white infants to another 29% of that time period. So we have, been working to close that gap, or to at least narrow that gap among health disparities among women in the Racine area that are impacted by premature births, low birth weight babies, and ultimately fetal and infant mortality. So with that grant, they have that's pass-through money that we provide with Racine County Human Resource Department, and then they work with local agencies. And last year was our first year that we partnered with Ascension as well to do prenatal care coordination to really focus on weekly visits and community partnerships with individuals getting out into the community, but also going into their homes and also working with Racine Unified. So I do not have data since 2020. They're working on those reports to get what has happened over the last couple of years during the pandemic. So I cannot say that it has gone down, but I can also not say that it is increased tremendously. So once that report's released, it's released in the spring, then we can share that with all of the alders. Thank you, David. Share that with you guys.
Okay. Any follow-up, what we're doing? Good, okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, a motion will be in order at this time.
Move to approve.
Moved by Alder Horton, seconded by Alder Kate. Any further discussion? Kate. Sorry about that. I will try and be louder. Be careful what you wish for. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please, Director Fisher.
Item number 0063-23, communication sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Public Health Director requesting permission to accept $117,350 from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for local public health departments consolidated contract programs. Grant number 00497 immunization, grant number 00495 MCH maternal child health, grant number 00496 childhood lead. Staff recommendation that the public health director be authorized to enter into an agreement and accept funding from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services. Fiscal note, the MCH grant requires $42,723 soft match. The grant amounts for the other grants, immunization, $34,930, MCH, $56,954, childhood lead, $25,456. Deputy Director here to speak on the item.
Please proceed.
I will review all of the grants and the contract and then answer any questions at that end. So again, longstanding grants, last 20 years. Immunization grant allows us to be able to monitor and work with all of our children we work to achieve compliance and vaccination rates through children that are 2 years of age, so that by the time they get into elementary school, that they have been fully vaccinated. So we have goals every year that we set forth to get those out. We work with different agencies to provide information. We also send letters out monthly to any child that is not updated on their vaccines, letting parents know that they're behind and where they could gain resources to get vaccinated, whether it's their pediatrician or whether it's coming to the health department. Then the MCH grant, this year we will continue to work and promote awareness and education for developmental screening. That kind of will work hand in hand with our lead grant as well. Nurses will go out and administer developmental screening, similar to if any of you have taken your child to a well child visit and they fill out a questionnaire. If there are any deficiencies, then we will work with the parents and different resources around town, similar to Birth 3 or Racine Unified, to get early intervention so that these children it can be corrected. The earlier it's caught, it can be corrected. We have our lead that we also case manage. We do education and surveillance, and then do lead risk assessments within the homes of those that are lead poisoned children. So last year we case managed 138 children. That was anybody that had a lead that was 3.5 and higher. And we did 96 lead housing inspections and risk assessments. So when we case manage, we do that in the child's home or daycare, wherever they spend a bulk of their time to really determine where the source of lead is coming from, and then also work and do developmental screenings. We work with the pediatricians as well. The Radon program is it's a contract that we brought tonight. With that contract, we can buy radon kits between $7 and $12. Residents can come pick them up, bring them back to us, and then we are allowed to send them to the state lab of hygiene for results, and they will send them back to us, and we follow up with the homeowner.
Okay. That's a great program. Any questions? Mary Lisa?
How do you determine which children get tested for the lead paint poisoning?
So pediatricians have the responsibility of testing children 3 times before the age of 3. So they get tested at age 1, 18 months, and then right around their 3rd birthday. So if, some pediatricians will test if a child comes up even borderline high, they might add a couple more times between 3 and 5 in there. Or if, we do have some children that ingest the paint lead, so they might have symptoms of, having stomach aches. They have different neurological symptoms that they start to exhibit. So then the pediatricians will determine that.
Yes, how do you enforce or say for example, I am a homeowner, I have lead paint. Who can make me fix the problem? Or I know that the people that handle rentals can talk with landlords about their issue. But what about a private home?
So, correct. So individuals, when we go in and do a risk assessment, if we determine that there's high lead in that house, under state statute, they do have to fix that. But we do have funding available through our HUD program with Kenosha Racine that may be able to help with funding as well as city development, so that, we have different ways of fixing it immediately, whether that's putting duct tape on a window seal so that pushing furniture in front of it so that the child can't get back there. A lot of times homeowners or renters don't know that that's lead. Lead has a sweet taste. It tastes like candy, and little toddlers are at that perfect height to put their mouth on it. So trying to get it solved right away. Other times we find lead because people are remodeling their homes, right? And they want to get rid of the old paint and repaint the new one in the dust. And sometimes it gets all over the toys, dishes. So we go in and we test everything from, walls to windows to toys to dishes, slaves and XRF machines we determine, and then we can help try to, if it's really bad, then unfortunately we have funds that we can put residents up into a hotel until we can get the home fixed. There are options, and we work with families so that we understand that it's a costly project sometimes and most of the time. So we want to make sure that it gets fixed though. We also don't want to have anybody not have a home.
What is the time frame? Like, when did they stop? When were there rules in place about lead paint? So people who own a house in a certain date range,
1976.
That's what I thought. Okay, cool. Late. Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, a motion would be in order at this time.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Alder Pete, seconded by Alder Horton. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item number 0064-23, communication sponsored by Alder Horton on behalf of the Public Health Director, requesting permission to accept $102,713 from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services for local public health departments consolidated contract programs. Grant control number 00476, Well Women Program. Grant control number 00477, Well Women Program. Staff recommendation that the Public Health Director be authorized to enter into an agreement and accept funding from the State of Wisconsin Department of Health Services. Fiscal note, there is no match required. Well Women Program GPR amount is $97,175. Well Women, I think this is probably the screening program, $5,538. Director Fergus is here.
So these two grants allow us to do outreach to women. Our goal is to try to get 4,000 women screened each year, to be able to get a breast and cervical screening to those that are between 44 and 64 years of age. These individuals either do not have insurance, or their insurance doesn't cover follow-ups, mammograms, or they have a high deductible and they can't afford to pay them. So then individuals will enroll with us, they'll fill out an application, and we will work with Ascension and Aurora on getting them in for a mammogram and cervical screening. So if cervical or breast cancer is detected, the program will pick up the cost of those interventions that need to take place.
I didn't know it was that comprehensive. That's great. Any questions about this program? Where do you advertise this kind of program so people know?
It's advertised throughout the community health centers, the community centers, the physicians' offices. We try to get them out. We advertise a few on the bus, the radio, the library put stuff out for us in the books as well.
Question, if somebody doesn't get like screened by your program, but then does have breast or cervical cancer detected and then has the high deductible plan or no insurance after that, then can they still enroll in the program if they weren't screened by you initially?
They are supposed to be screened by us first.
Okay,
So I don't know the answer off the top of my
I
head.
was just thinking some people go to Planned Parenthood for screenings and then if they, maybe they didn't know, so I was just checking about that.
So Planned Parenthood will do, so if individuals utilize those and it's a self-breast examination or a provider exam, then they would refer them if they were to feel something, they would have that, Planned Parenthood would give them an application to
Okay.
work with us. So I
Okay.
shouldn't say, so if something is felt prior to that mammogram and a provider suspects it, then
Okay,
they can provide an app.
okay. Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, a motion would be in order at this time.
Move to approve.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Deputy Director.
Item number 0077-23, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason on behalf of the equity officer requesting approval of the equity workforce plan for 2023. Staff recommendation that the equity workforce plan for 2023 be approved. No fiscal note for this item. Equity officer Damian Evans is here to speak on the item.
Mr. Evans, please proceed, sir.
Hello, so we spent the last year assessing all of the data that was from 2022 in terms of residency, salaries, and position titles. So we came up with a plan to address that, and we identified 4 areas of focus, which is recruitment and retention, onboarding and orientation, climate and culture, and then creating the equity framework for each of the departments to proceed with diversifying their workforce. So that's the gist of the plan, with the goal being to attain more employees that mirror the demographics of the city of Racine. More in depth, because there's an in-depth plan, each department identified, and as you probably know, because of the different sizes of the departments, they're gonna have different approaches to how they approach those different things, right? So the recruitment will be, for the smaller departments, may be more specific. I know that the fire department is already working with high schools and introducing that profession to high school students. So it just depends on which department it is they are utilizing and identify different approaches. An area of concern is that for those who with salaries above 85,000, most of those folk are not people of color, and so trying to figure out a succession plan. And I should say, I'm in human resources department where that's going to be one of our initiatives going forward, thinking about succession planning.
It's a pretty comprehensive document. I must say. Do we have any questions or?
Not necessarily questions, but for discussion. Since this position was kind of created, going out of committee of the whole discussions and then ultimately for ordinance discussion through the committee, I would be interested in prior to adopting this, that this presentation be forwarded to the committee of the whole. So that the entire council can kind of review it and kind of tap into what's going on, why it's going on, and get some questions clarified before we adopt it in council level. So that's where I'm leaning towards making that motion. Certainly, not going to dismiss, I read the report, but I do know that this particular position and the efforts within it are really a council focused thing. And having an opportunity to address that collectively, I think will be important prior to adopting.
Okay. You,
So I move to refer to committee of the whole.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, move to refer to committee of the whole by Alder Tate, seconded by Alder Gordon. Any further discussion on that motion? Or the item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
And I guess I'll say, before that, if you have like a more presentation available for folks as far as the statistics. I know you obviously have this, but you could perhaps put in a PowerPoint format. That might be useful for that time.
What's the time frame you think of that?
For the mid-February.
This February, okay. Thank you. Okay. That brings us to our next item, please.
Item number 0075-23, communication sponsored by Mayor Mason on behalf of the interim assistant director of city development, requesting permission to change the position title of neighborhood investment manager to economic development project manager, and change the title of real estate manager to manager of economic development and housing. The compensation grade of each position will not change. Staff recommendation that the interim assistant director of city development be granted approval to change the position titles as requested. This will note there's no budgetary impact associated with this change. The pay grades are not changing. I am here to speak on this item tonight. I appreciate your time. Let me just start by saying generally this is something that would take place during the budget process. I bring this to you tonight out of budget cycle because it is really that important for the function of city development. So I kind of took on this role in city development in July of 2022. Since then, I've been analyzing all positions within city development, the structure of the department itself. And some changes I did make in the 2023 budget. I wasn't quite ready for this particular one. But what we have found as a team, Jeff Hintz and Kathy and I have really found as a team is what we were missing is an economic development entry point within the organization. And I think some of you know, we have big developers, we have smaller developers, we have individual small businesses that have questions. And they honestly, they don't know who to call. We don't have that central entry point. So what this proposal really does is create more of a division focused on economic development versus what the division was focused on was more of compliance. We're very heavy compliance from back in the day. Obviously, our processes going forward, everything is focused on economic development. So that's really the theory of what this is doing, is making that singular entry point and more of a focus on economic development to really help guide those people, small business, big developers, small developers, with a one entry point. That entry point would then kind of dish it off to the other divisions, because planning most certainly has a piece of it, and building has a piece of it, and sometimes Ned has a piece of it. So it's really that central point to then kick off. So that is my ask for this evening.
Want to talk about the resignation that provided the timely opportunity?
Correct. So we had a retirement in the department very close to or right after the budget process last year. So that's how this kind of came up a little bit quicker than what I had initially anticipated. So we had that retirement. That position title is hanging out in the 2023 budget, and by our ordinance, the correct way is to come to the common council to have that kind of repositioned. But the funding is all there for that position. We're just retitling a little bit again to better guide that kind of function within the department.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the duties and responsibilities of the economic development position are different from the other position.
They are just a little bit different, a lot more focused on economic development, both big and small, whereas the previous position, the real estate manager position, in actuality was focused more on the big developments and the big parcels of land that we were going to redevelop. This is combining those two. So having one person do both big and small and have that singular entry point. because sometimes you can't differentiate between big and small right at the beginning when people call. So we get, I don't even know how many calls a day, Jeff knows better than I do for sure. But we get up to 10 calls a day of people that want to buy property, reuse storefronts. Again, we need that central entry point to then say, yep, this is a big one, this is a little one, this is a medium, this is not even in our city.
So you're saying you'll have two people, that's where it's a little bit,
So this is going to be two people. We actually have one of the positions is currently filled, so it would just be a rename of that position, okay? The second position is vacant. It will be posted through our regular hiring process, but it will be two economic development focused positions. Now, having said that, it will also include housing, it will include economic development, it will include compliance and the supervision of all of our HUD programs. So there is a lot built into these two positions.
thank you very much.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? All right, a motion would be in order at this time.
Move to approve.
Okay, moved by Alder Pete, seconded by Alder Tate. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
So our next item is a closed session item. Would you like me to read the language?
I would love you to read the language, that would be delightful.
All right, it is intended that the Finance and Personnel Committee will convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19851E to address matters that for competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically regarding the redevelopment site at or near 233 Lake Avenue, and to formulate collective bargaining strategy and pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19851G to discuss strategy for litigation in which the city of Racine is currently involved. We have 3 items that will take place in this closed session.
Okay,
Move to enter closed session.
okay, moved by Alder Tate, seconded by Alder Pete. Roll call vote, please.
Alder Taft,
Aye.
Alder West is excused. Alder Pete,
Aye.
Alder Horton,
Aye.
Alder Tate the second.
Aye.
That completes roll call to go into closed session.
Thank you. We are